Michael, we do want to get back to some NFL talk, and we always talk quarterbacks here because they dominate, obviously, the NFL offseason. I don't even know if there is an offseason anymore in the NFL, Michael. It just feels like 24/7 continuous conversation.
It's June.
It's exactly. And Baker Mayfield is a polarizing figure to some. What you think of Baker Mayfield. And obviously, they've picked up his fifth-year option. He's going to be back in Cleveland, barring something that we just can't see. So I don't know if it's good news or bad news when you look at what Baker was able to do last year. And I think we have to put this in the framework of the injury report because he was on it just about every week. In week 3, it was a torn labrum. In week 7, a fractured humerus. Weeks 8 and 9, it was a left shoulder. 10, 11, and 12, still had the left shoulder. Add on a foot and a knee and then a groin in week 12. 14, we just got the foot and the shoulder. 17, it's still that shoulder. So we saw that he was clearly playing hurt. We saw a guy that didn't want to give up his job. We saw a guy that said, I'm going to go, and that might even be the detriment to the team. How do you evaluate Baker Mayfield in 2021, Michael? Do you look at it like, okay, this is the guys in the locker room like that you are there for us, and you're willing to play through these ailments, but the downside is you didn't play that well. How do you kind of square those circles?
Well, I think you have to go look at the team as a whole. Last year they were one of the few teams that made the playoffs with a negative ratio in points scored and points allowed. And once again this year they did it too. They gave up 371 points. They scored 349. I think the hard part for Browns fans and NFL fans is to separate the scheme from the player. And I think that ultimately the scheme really helped Baker last year. Stefanski bringing in the running game, being able to run his play action, getting a lot of open looks down the field, taking Baker out of playing behind center and being small in the pocket. And so they did that. Now, teams adjusted to it a little bit, which created problems for Baker. But more than anything, much like Kyler Murray, Baker's inability to stay healthy because of his size is going to be a problem. I mean, it's going to be a problem moving forward. He's not a big man. He's not a big man, and if he runs and takes too many hits, he will continue to get hurt. And because he's a little guy, the more he gets injured, the less and less effective he will become. When he played at Oklahoma, he would go back and, receivers would complain to him that he would say, I didn't see you. Baker has a hard time playing from the pocket with people rushing him inside. It's just the way it is. And Stefanski's done a great job of moving him around. Now, you say, well, they got to find somebody better. Yeah, that's great to say it, but once again, who's that player? Where are they going? They're not jumping all over themselves to give him $50 million a year.
No.
They're not jumping all over themselves to pay him. They're just saying, okay, we got to figure this out. Let's see what we can do. Let's see how we handle this. Let's see what's out there in the market. And we know we have a player that we can go and win with. He's won on the road in Pittsburgh. He almost beat Kansas City.
Bless you.
It's me again, David. I'm sorry.
I've got allergies out here in the desert, too.
Yeah. And so I think that's really the mindset here. And look, I think the biggest mistakes I've made in evaluation when I was in the league is assuming a player's bad when you don't know how bad the medical is.
Right.
And I would caution everybody. I can remember watching Logan Mankins play guard for the Patriots, and I'm like, wow, has he really lost it? Then I find out he played on a torn ACL most of the year.
Eesh.
Dumb me, And I think it's the same thing. Unless you're watching practice, unless you know how much, you can't look at that injury report and say for sure how bad Baker is. So I'm willing to cut him some slack here and say, okay, he was good last year. They've got to repair the team. They need to get better receivers around them. Obviously, they need their offensive lines to strength. But more than anything, Dave, they got to fix their defense. Their defense has been problematic now 2 years in a row. And we talk about all the great players they have on defense that can't get off the field. They're almost 40% they allow you to convert third downs. Almost 40%.
Wow.
With a team with Myles Garrett and rushers.
Yeah, that shouldn't be the case. And again, you can look back if you do, and I'm sure Brown fans know this. Boy, COVID, the COVID Football League, as I like to say last year, boy, they got hosed big time with some of those late announcements and decisions and postponements that we were all going through then that really crippled their playoff opportunities. And they had to go. Remember, Baker was very vocal about it. Why can't I play? And then you look at when he did play, and we showed you those numbers. He did have over 3,000 yards passing, a completing percentage of almost 16.5% here. The sacks 43, the rating of 83.1. What really stands out to me, though, Michael, is you don't see touchdown INT ratios like this much in 2022 NFL, right? 17-13. Like if Tom Brady throws 13 picks, he's probably got 40 touchdowns, right? If Aaron Rodgers throws 5 picks, he's probably got 25 touchdowns. And I know we're measuring Baker against the elite of the elite. What is his ceiling to you? If you're a guy in that Browns organization that says, Kevin Stefanski, is this the guy you want us to give a contract extension to? Because you think the ceiling is what? What is that ceiling to you?
I think he's a marginal starter. I think he's always going to be in the bottom. He's going to be 15 to 20 range in terms of overall quarterbacks in the league. Look, his as you mentioned, 4.1% touchdown percentage to a 3.1 percentage of interceptions. The other factor is can he play the game when it has to be all pass game? Can he perform in a drop back pass game? And, we go back to the playoff game when they're down 22-17. They get the ball back. He can't get a first down, can't throw it from the pocket, can't make those plays. This is just reality. This isn't being negative on Baker Mayfield. This is just reality. You've got to accept it. Now, you try to configure your team around them. But to me, if you're negotiating Baker's contract, you say, look, Baker, at $25 million, I think we can certainly talk about a contract. At $40 million, there's no conversation. At some point, you need to be able to give money back to the team so we can help make you a better player. Now, players don't want to do that. The other area of huge concern for Cleveland that no one will talk about is their field goal kicking situation. I mean, they missed 6 kicks inside between the 40 and the 49 last year. They were 4 for 10. That's 40%. Their opponents were 8 for 9 in that area. I mean, that's 6 kicks. That's 18 points that you lost somewhere. Right? That's 6 more turnovers that you've added to your turnover column. That's significant. I mean, because we watched the guy in Cincinnati make every kick.
Right.
And he made such a huge difference. This is a weakness. I mean, the Browns need a kicker. I know he's a young player, but at some point, and he made every kick over 50 yards. But that 40-yard range, you've got to be able to be at 90% there. The kickers are too good today.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Again, you look at the Browns and Stefanski here, second year's head coach. He was coach of the year, year number 1. And obviously they did pick up that 5th-year option for Baker, 30-1 to win the Super Bowl, 16-1 to win the AFC. They do have some cap space there at 24, and they've got $24 million. They've got the 13th overall selection. Michael, if you're in that front office again – and you've got that 13th pick, is it defense? Because you alluded to that they got to shore that up, even though they have some stars in at least in name value here. Which way would you go to try to get this team back to where they were just 2 years ago?
Well, they've got to obviously – I think it's the defense. If they can get a defensive lineman, I think this is going to be a draft where you really got to take the best player available. They've got to get Njoku re-signed. He's a free agent, and I think they will. They'll get him re-signed, and I think that's going to be critical. But Clowney had 9 sacks for him last year, played as well as he could play based on the injury. Malik Jackson wasn't the same player. McKinley, another defensive lineman, is out. So I think they've got to repair their defensive front. They've got to shore that up a little bit and see if they can get better players there to go along with Myles Garrett, because this is the time. Myles Garrett's a dominant player. You've got to get somebody to go in there. And if you just watch the 49ers, which should be who they operate at and when you get the 49ers, the 49ers signed Arden Key off the street from the Raiders, and he came in and gave him 6.5 sacks.
Right.
And so you're going to need to get some of those guys in there. But I think the number one need is defense. Everybody will say, well, you need more receivers. Well, you do need more receivers. There's no doubt. Landry's in his last year. Okay, so he's in his last year. He doesn't have any guaranteed money. Okay. Well, who says he has to if he makes a team, it's all guaranteed anyway. So I think they've got to put their assets. Could they use another receiver? Yeah, but I think they need defensive front, because you're not going to win in the NFL if you're negative in the plus point totals.
No, you're just not. And again, Baker's about 23rd right now for the highest. I guess he'd be to the low end of the spectrum there for starting quarterbacks when you pick up that 5th-year option. I don't. Yes, Baker wants a new contract, Michael. I get that, but I don't hear him saying, it's like the Kyler Murray ransom notes. Like, guys are playing under the existing rookie deals, and this is the way the front office can use it as leverage. Is Baker going about this the right way, saying, all right, you picked up my option. I probably didn't earn a contract extension. I'll prove it to you in year 5. Or do you think this is really the last run with Baker?
I mean, I think this is what they have to do. I mean, Baker's at $18 million. It's on the last deal of his contract. You know, they've got a ton of money. Now I think they're going to have almost $30 million in free agency, so they'll spend it accordingly. But, I think they're smart. They're smart to do this, to kind of let it play out. And they know they could franchise him next year at whatever that number is. So they have 2 years at relatively under $25 million per year. It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, that's normally the way you can still try to win, when you're not overpaying for your quarterback here. And the Browns are still in that window with Baker Mayfield in year number 5. Okay.
You make a huge mistake, Dave, when you overpay good players. You never make a mistake when you overpay great players.
Yeah, there it is. And that's Baker is good at best right now as a starting quarterback, clearly in the NFL. Great point.